Yamamoto pitches a complete game. This after Blake Snell faced 24 batters, which is the minimum, in 8 innings. Think about that. You faced the minimum number of batters in 8 innings. Minimum number of batters in 8 innings. So I know that last year the Dodgers bullpen was everything. I know that if you look at the trade deadline, everybody wants to fix their bullpen. Bullpen. Forget about starter. What has been diminished in baseball? Just like the mid-range game in basketball has been diminished because of analytics, starting pitching has been greatly diminished. It used to be, back in my day, back in the 2015s and 2012s, and you go back to the 2000s, back in my day, you needed 2 starters and a quality closer, a righty setup man, maybe a lefty to get you out of a jam, and that's about it. Well, a funny thing happened on the way to having openers and closers and not even having a defined closer. The LA Dodgers like, yeah, well, what if we had the 2 best starting pitchers? And probably should have let Blake Snell go the distance. The crazy part about it is that Shohei Ohtani hasn't even pitched yet. Right? And Ohtani this year hasn't been an ace, but he has been in the past. And so you have Yamamoto, who was filthy. Blake Snell, who filthy and has been filthy in the World Series, in the playoffs before. The Dodgers took analytics and said, what if we just had the best starting pitching? And to Jay Stu's point, one of Jay Stu's points to me when we talked about it was, it did feel like at the start of the year they had too much starting pitching, which is what you should do if you have a bunch of money, is don't put it all in one guy. Put it in more guys than anybody else. That's how you're able to withstand all the injuries. That's how you're able to slowly get Blake Snell up and going and ready for the playoffs. But there's lots of things that the data supports, and the data is right, and old habits are really hard to break. And our old habit as viewers, as fans, is to assume that starting pitching is dead as a doornail. And the reality is it's very much alive and well. Very much alive and well with the LA Dodgers. I mean, we still have a ton of questions about their bullpen. They weren't answered in game 1. Those questions are right there. Sasaki, who's a starter, and again, he's a guy who eventually, probably next year, is in their rotation, and his stuff is filthy. And there's more starting pitching. My assumption is the reason the Dodgers did it is starting pitching is so expensive that the teams that are cost conscious, well, they feel like, let's cut a corner here. Let's get a guy here, a starter here, and let's really save our money, and we'll spend our money in our bullpen. That's not the Dodgers. The Dodgers actually can do both. But as we told you, and this is not just Jason Stewart, this is me, it was trade deadline, the surprising part was that they took some broken down pieces there for that middle relief, and they haven't panned out well for them. But they're going to have a filthy bullpen in the future, and they're going to have these starters in the future. I don't know. I watched games 1 and 2, and there's a lot of takeaways. But the biggest takeaway is not just that the Dodgers are better or that the Dodgers look like a better baseball team, and they do it with Mookie Betts barely hitting, and Shohei Ohtani, he had 1 RBI, a hard-hit ground ball between first and second, and that's really it for the series. With limited production from your 2 best hitters, from 2 future Hall of Famers, they're up 2-0. Why? Because starting pitching still very much has a place. Very much has a place in high-level playoff baseball. High-level playoff baseball. Not a foregone conclusion, but feels a little bit that way. Here's Pat Murphy, who's the manager of the Brewers, talking about that Dodgers dominant starting pitching.
Both those pitchers were as dominant as 2 pitchers have been. We chased way more than we've chased all year. We've been the best in baseball at not chasing. these pitchers brought out the worst in us. Yeah. Yeah, if I would have told you that the Dodgers are going to score 7 runs in 2 games, and what was the outcome in the first 2 games, I'd say there's a chance we won one of them for sure. Our pitching is beat up, you know that. I mean, it was an emotional series with the Cubs, and then our pitching's been, so we weren't as sharp, but I thought Freddie pitched well. I thought Ashby came in and did a great job. Gasser came in and did a great job. Anderson came in and did a great job. So we had some good performances, but offensively, you've got to grind out at bats, and that's what been our forte. The ball strike has been really at the core of our offensive success, and sometimes great pitching brings out the worst in you.
It can. That's a great point. Here's Dave Roberts, manager of the Dodgers, on what led up to Yamamoto's outing last night.
I see a real confidence. I think that's what it is. I think that, last year certainly there was a transition, and even in the postseason, I didn't give him a whole lot of leash. And we also had a really talented bullpen, which we clearly leaned on and have talked about, a lot. But I think this year he's got true confidence from me that third time through at pitch 90, he feels that he's the best option. And so I think for me, that just gives me that confidence.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's Dave or upstairs that allowed him to close that game. Jay Stu, going into the 9th, what did you think was going to happen?
Last night, I thought that they were going to go to one of their gas cans in the bullpen. But I was secured by the lead 5-1, so it didn't matter. They could have brought in Tanner Scott, who's just awful at pitching, and that would have been fine. I did scratch my head. I don't understand the mentality, and if Dave was asked this, I didn't hear the answer because I sure looked. I don't understand. One of my criticisms off of Game 1 was, one of the reasons why I was pissed off that Blake Snell didn't start the 9th inning at least was because Dave took a chance for Blake Snell to make history away from him. Remember last week when we talked about signature moments in the postseason from great players? And one of the comments in that exchange was, it's hard to have a signature moment if you're a starting pitcher. But Blake Snell had a chance to go out, get the outs in the 9th, and be the only pitcher since Larson to face 27 batters in a postseason game. That's the signature moment. So I thought Dave took that moment away from him, and that pissed me off. So why bring Yamamoto out for the 9th if you were going to take Snell out? That's confounding to me.
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of is he learned from the previous night's mistake. Is that fair? Just because you did it the night before and it proved to be a mistake, does that mean you have to do it again just to be consistent? Am I making sense?
No, I'm just saying that there was much more incentive.
No,
to put Blake out on Monday.
I am not disputing that. You and I completely agree, Jason. It was a Don Larson-esque pitching performance. It made total sense. He was mowing him down. He's not a guy who you feel like is going to have an arm issue because he's not throwing 100+, right? Part of the allure to him is that curveball was so filthy. They could not figure him out. And it was the bottom of the lineup. So you and I agree. But just because you do something that doesn't make sense the night before and is the wrong decision the night before, and your bullpen nearly blows it, that does not mean that you have to make the same decision, even if it's not nearly the storybook it was the night before.
No, that's fair.